Hey everyone, this is Steve Krause, and welcome to Engl328 Online for summer 2010. This is a little introduction video for me to introduce myself to you and to talk a little bit about some of the stuff in the syllabus. Here I am, Steve Krause. It looks like Krause, but my family pronounces it Krause. It's a long story. My office hours are 11 to 1 p.m. on Mondays by appointment, and since it's an online class, probably the best way for us to meet is going to be by appointment. Engl328 is a course that's about the relationship between writing, style, and technology, as the title of the class might suggest. A lot of students take the class because they're hoping that they're majoring in language, literature, and writing for teachers. A lot of students take the class because they're writing minors or writing majors. Two required books for the class. The first one is this one, Strunk and White, The Elements of Style. Hopefully you can see that. There's a bunch of different versions of this, so as long as you find the one that has both Strunk and White, you're fine. There's an illustrated version that you can get, that's fine too. This is the 4th edition. If you get the 3rd edition or even the 2nd edition, that'll be okay too. The other one is this book, which is called Style Toward Clarity and Grace. It's by a guy named Joseph Williams, and you want to make sure you want to get this version of it because he also has a series of textbooks, and you don't want that. This is the kind of book you can get at Borders. Both of these books are cheap. You should be able to get them at Borders, that sort of thing like that. Also, I ordered them through the University Bookstore, so you can go there if you want to. Now, before we go too far, I want to take a moment to talk about the sort of dilemma of the online class and also 7.5-week class. Okay. I've already sent everybody a warning email about this, but just in case you didn't read that all the way through and just hit reply, or just in case you haven't seen this email yet, I want to remind everybody of two very important things about this class. First, it's online. As you can tell, one of the great things about being online is it gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of time and place and everything else. I'm recording this in my backyard on the Saturday before the term starts. You might be looking at this sometime Monday morning or Monday evening or maybe even Tuesday morning or something like that. So we can play with time and space in ways that are kind of interesting and cool. The thing is, though, is that with online classes, you have to be responsible for participating and doing stuff in the class. There's no assigned time for us meeting, so if you're the kind of person who's not necessarily the most self-motivated, you need to have a schedule operated for you and things like that, you're either going to need to create that schedule for yourself, or you're going to have to really kind of adjust your ways, because participating in the online class does put a lot more responsibility on you. Because the class only meets for 7.5 weeks, and we'll get to that in a second, you're almost going to have to do something in the class almost every day. So what I would suggest that you do is that you check the class website for comments and participating in about readings, discussions, and things like that almost every day. If you were thinking, I'm just going to take this class, it's an online class, I'm just going to do stuff on Thursdays, that's not going to work. Okay? The other issue that we need to talk about is the 7.5-week thing. It's not half as much class, it moves twice as fast. In other words, everything we're doing in 7.5 weeks is what I would normally do in 15 weeks of a regular fall or winter term. So stuff moves very, very quickly. The second thing is that because it's so short and because it's in the summer, you need to be aware that you need to be here virtually electronically throughout the entire term. In other words, if you decided, for example, that you're going to take a week off someplace, that's not going to work. The only way that it can work, and I'll be doing this during the course of the semester too, because I'll be doing some traveling over the summer, is if you take your computer or your laptop with you and you go someplace and you check in with the class while you're on your trip. Okay, so participation in the class is worth 200 out of 1,000 points, and that will mostly take place in the form of threaded discussions right here in this blog forum. And you'll get the hang of it soon enough, but be sure to read along there. I expect everyone to participate in the conversation for each post, for each reading for the class. So, in other words, I'll post something pretty soon about, I expect, for example, with this post, I'm expecting everyone to introduce themselves to the class. And for the first reading assignment, when we start talking about Walter Ong, I'm expecting everyone to have some sort of comment about that reading. And I'll help you out and give you some ideas and tips as we go along in terms of how that will work. But be sure to participate in all the parts of the discussion. As I explained there in terms of grading participation, what I do is halfway through the term is I'll ask you to send me an email telling me what grade you think that you've earned for participation so far, and we'll have an email dialogue about that, and we'll do that at the end of the term too. The next component of the class is blogs. It's worth 150 points. There will be a series of blog posts during the course of the term. I think it's about 17 or 18 altogether. They're very short prompts, and they're prompts that I will add. It's not, you don't write about it, whatever you want. It's I'll give you a prompt to write about particular sorts of topics, about the readings, about class activities and such, and then you just post those on your own WordPress.com blog. The most important part of the blog assignment is that you actually have to do them. And if you fall behind, and if you sort of forget about doing them, then your grade will suffer. As long as you do them earnestly and take some time and use the blogs as a way of helping you better understand the readings and get engaged in the writing assignments, as long as you do that, you'll be fine. Okay? Then there's the major writing projects for the class. There's essentially 4 large projects. Well, 4.5. The first one is the Invent Your Own Writing Technology project. We'll start talking about this later this week. The second one is an essay where you examine some style on YouTube. The third half assignment, if you will, is a revision of either of the first 2 projects based on some of the discussions that we'll have reading Strunk and White and Williams. Also, as part of that project, it's kind of 1 grade. You'll see what I mean when we get there. Is I'll have you do a parody or imitation or remake of a style guide based on what we've read. And the last project is a collaborative project where you and a group of fellow students will make a short video, and then individually you'll write an essay about that process. I talk about all kinds of different stuff here that you need to look at and take a read of as we go along. There's a final that's worth 50 points for the class. 50 points is not a lot, as you can tell, out of 1,000 points, but it's the sort of thing that you need to actually do, and it can make a slight difference. We'll talk more about that as we go along, but the final is really part of a process that's designed to meet a requirement for those of you who are English education majors, but it also is a good project for everybody else in the class to complete as well, just to sort of reflect on what we did. Let me just read this one line here. It's the one in red underneath the final. In order to pass the course, you must complete all the major writing projects and the final, regardless of your grades for any of the other components of the course, and regardless of your grade with the missing components. So here's some information on privacy. We can read through this and we can discuss this as we go along. I guess what I would say is that don't worry about any grade information, because none of that will be online. But the rest of the course is indeed on a website that people could, in theory, come across. So you may want to use like your first name and last initial or something like that when you post comments here or when you set up your own blog. As far as the schedule goes, all I'll say for now is if you look at where it's at the schedule page, you'll notice that it's broken up into basically weeks. So week 1, week 2, so forth. And you'll also notice it says begin by Monday and complete by begin by Monday and complete by Wednesday, and then begin by Wednesday, complete by Friday. So, for example, for week 1, begin by Wednesday and complete by Friday means that you need to begin all of the things that are listed there. That is, review the Writing as a Technology assignment, or Invent Your Own Technology assignment, read and discuss Walter Ong's essay, read and discuss Dennis Barron's essay, and complete the blog post assignment, My Writing Technologies. That all has to begin by Wednesday and complete by Friday. This is very important because if everybody waits until Friday to start doing those sorts of things, then we can't really have a discussion about these things. So, in other words, if you need to have a due date for these things, think of the first day as the due date when you have to start the conversation. The other thing I'll mention about the schedule is when due dates are. So, for example, you'll notice if you look at week 2, by Wednesday of week 2, by midnight on that Wednesday, and I should point out that I always mean the end of the day is midnight Eastern time. But by midnight on Wednesday, July 7th, you need to have a draft of your Writing Technology draft posted and available for review. And if you don't have a post, and you'll see what I mean when we get to that part, if you don't have a draft available, then I'll deduct a letter grade from your project. So be mindful of those deadlines, and also be mindful of the due dates for things. So, for example, Wednesday, July 14th, the Writing as a Technology project is due by midnight, and you'll have to publish that on your blog. Okay. Hopefully, this will all make sense as we go along here. I think that it's one of those things where once you get the hang of it, it'll be pretty easy to follow. Okay, I think that's it for the introduction part. Welcome to Engl328 Online. I'll see you online, and whatever questions you have about the introduce yourself below under here. introduce yourself, and if you have other questions about the class, the syllabus, the schedule, anything else, now's the time to ask. Okay, see you online.